What's up, everybody? It's guubums back with another guide video. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm a competitive TFT player from North America, and I'm a former Worlds finalist. I've been rank 1 every set since I've started playing, and today I want to be talking about the single best comp in the game, which is 6 Executioners. Yes, this comp is better than Yone and Riven, and it's also probably better than Twisted Fate as well, and it's been catching a lot of steam lately. Most notably, if you guys were paying attention at all, there was a big tournament this past weekend, an international one hosted by the people who run CN Chinese Competitive, and this comp was used by the world champion to win the tournament in the final game. So it was also the strongest comp throughout the entire tournament based on average placement, and pretty much in general this is just a really strong comp. If you guys watched my last video, I would have already talked about it. It's an Executioner comp played around Vex, Amumu, and Samira reroll, but you are playing around 6 Executioner, something that I didn't properly kind of like delve into in the previous video. So today we'll be watching the world champion kind of like win the very last game of that tournament that I just talked about, and we'll see, I guess, like how he did it, right? So first and foremost, like, how do you play this comp? Normally it's a comp played around like level 7. You just go level 7, you reroll for Vex, Amumu, and Samira. You're looking for Executioner, Chosen, Samira, or Vex by the end of the game. Sometimes you can get away with something like an emo Chosen Vex, but note that if you are doing so, you aren't going to be able to put in 6 Executioner, which means that your endgame cap is going to be a lot lower. Despite obviously it is still really powerful to play around 4 emo, like you can play obviously Poppy on your board. You just won't be playing that 6 Executioner that like really pushes this comp kind of like over the line into like the realm of something like truly broken. This comp is definitely getting nerfed in the next patch. We kind of already talked about the comp and other things to Riot, so we can, we already know this comp is getting nerfed. So play it while you can, and I guess like today we'll see how the world champion plays it. But also the items you build are just very, very simple. You want 1 mana item on Vex with Nashor's and Morello. The thing is, Morello can be replaced with red buff. Nashor's is her best item, but you can build a lot of other stuff like Death Cap, Archangels. A lot of these items are really good. You want a form of Shred and both armor and MR somewhere in your team. So whether that be Shiv, Spark, it doesn't matter. There's 2 augments in the game that give you Shred on actually both types of damage, Exposed Weakness and Sticks and Stones. One's a silver, one's a gold. Obviously, if you get either of these 2, it's going to be really, really strong for the comp. Otherwise, you just get anything that scales your crit, such as like TG augments. You'll note that later in the video, we'll see footage of the world champion title pick up a lot of these TG augments that scale with Executioners, because the Executioners, as soon as you put a TG on it, even though it's not like truly best in slot, it's super, super strong on these units just because it scales with the crit, it scales with some of the other stats that TGs can give you. Obviously, sometimes your TGs will roll best in slot for your carry or for your tank, and you'll obviously be in a really good spot for that as well. Otherwise, just pure combat augments are really good. Anything that gives healing, such as Harm Assist, is really strong. Certain augments that give you kind of like rolling power, so Prismatic Ticket, Golden Ticket, Hero Grab Bag, stuff that helps you hit your 3 stars can be quite strong as well. Certain gold augments, you'll find that can be really powerful as well, such as like Three's Company in the early game. Otherwise, Three's a Crowd is also really strong. You're running 3/3 costs in this comp. Sometimes you can run more if you're playing around Set and Alawi in certain cases. So without further ado, let's kind of like see how the world champion played this comp. So I have a video from his VOD today, and so he's playing in Galaxy. That's just well, we can skip past this, but the Galaxy he's playing in is a very standard Galaxy. It's just gold augment on the first augment, so it's like pretty much just to show that like this comp can realistically be played from like a lot of different spots. Obviously, in certain points in this game, you're going to see him high roll, you're going to see him low roll, and the game is a game of variance, so there's going to be a lot of things that you can like kind of like learn from this, even though like he's so-called high rolled. The thing is, you do generally need to high roll to win like any game of TFT. It's like it's very probable that he had high rolled, but there's still so much to learn that like it's still worth kind of like analyzing the game, right? So just skipping quickly to his 2-1, we'll notice that he has, it doesn't matter like what his options were really, but he takes this TG augment. As soon as you take this TG augment, you should already be thinking, okay, like I have the opportunity to play around Executioners, because once again, like TG's sleight of hand, it gives everyone holding a TG bonus stats, as well as TGs can already be put on any of your Executioners, 2-star or 3-star, just to make them really powerful already at the start of the game, right? So it doesn't give you best in slot, but it gives you a suitable item to use for your carries, right? So then he slams a Sunfire, and at this point he's probably not angling it, but he probably has it in mind because like he knows or he understands that it's a really, really strong comp. His early game is pretty straightforward. He actually hits Lilia 2 and Garen 2 off like just a couple shops, so he's pretty much set to win streak most of the stage, and now he hits Twitch 2 as well, so he has Pumpkin. Pretty much he's definitely set to win streak the entire stage even without a Chosen. You'll notice that he is skipping Chosens that are probably pretty strong, but at this point, like it's pretty reasonable for him to just greed whatever chosen he wants, just because, I mean, his board is so strong anyway. Most of the time he won't lose. Manages to get glove here. Very basic stuff. He can slam either Last Whisper, which is really strong if you angle. So once you slam Last Whisper, you probably are angling around a Executioner comp or like something AD thing. Most of the time these days, people are slamming Last Whispers just to play the Executioner comp because it's best in slot Samira. But also, when you slam Last Whisper, you could still play around like some of the AD range carries. It's not as favorable to a lot of the top players right now, but it is possible. That being said, obviously he does slam it. He does find a really, really strong Chosen in Chosen Katarina, so he moves it right away. Obviously he gets the country right away, so it's really, really strong. Moves the TG as well, even though he loses Sentinel. Makes sure, or he doesn't sell the Garen just yet, even though it might make him econ, just because obviously it has a Sunfire on it. And it's still a 2-star unit that's really strong in the early game. So that being said, now that it makes him econ to sell the Garen, he does sell it, moves it to a Mumu. He does pick up an Amumu pair if he wins. So definitely like long term, this is going to be stronger. That being said, if he did lose the fight because he played a Mumu, it probably wouldn't be worth it, but it's still good to kind of like look towards selling it now. Can't slam any items. He got dropped 2 items, Cloak and Glove. He's not going to slam anything. This will most likely turn into either like a Spark or another defensive item, either Declaw or Stoneplate or Adaptive Helm with a Cloak, and then the Glove can either be, you know, an offensive item such as IE, Guard Breaker, or just another TG or Hodge, right, for any of his carries. So here, this is very basic. Obviously, you guys can't understand, or you guys might not know what the augments are because they are in Japanese, but, you know, taking TG augments, this is like Radiant TG gives you a Radiant TG. This augment's going to be really good with, that synergizes really well with his first augment, because obviously anyone holding a TG is going to be given a lot of stats. Yeah, just in general, it's already a strong augment in this comp that he's trying to angle, but also, like, it synergizes really well with his first augment, right? So this is pretty much a no-brainer. He actually did skip Twin Terror, notably, which is another thing he could have taken to play around Twitch. So just real quick, on his last option here, he skipped Twin Terror, which he could have used to pivot into Twitch, but notably someone else in the lobby was already taking Twin Terror, so he would have been contested, as well as you can already play that comp without Twin Terror. And the thing is, he's not maybe hard committed to Executioners right now anyway. This augment probably gives him more tempo right now, where like while he's still streaking. So generally when you're streaking on like 3-2, you want to be taking an augment that provides you some sort of like tempo so that you can continue to streak. I'm sure he's thinking about that as well. Twin Terror at the moment, although he has 2 Amumus, doesn't really give him any tempo, so he's not going to get any stronger by taking that augment. And if he does want to get stronger by taking that augment, then he will have to roll, and then you also have to make the decision whether or not you want to sell your Chosen to roll. Obviously you're looking for that Chosen Twitch in that scenario. The problem with that is that this Chosen is really, really strong as is, so it's like kind of feels bad to like commit a lot of gold to kind of trying to get stronger when you can just get stronger by picking a different augment, right? So it goes with the TG, obviously a very solid choice. Immediately loses this fight. So actually I wanted to talk about this this round a little bit. He has 2.5 pairs sitting on bench. The reason why I say half is that Kench is not really a pair, so you can actually justify rolling a couple times here to try to get any upgrade. Obviously we see by how this fight went, he could have won this fight on any upgrade. Even the Tom Kench probably would have made the difference because he loses by 1 unit. So obviously if he tanked another ult, chances are Twitch will have killed the Lulu. Obviously that's not something he knew, but if he could guarantee this win with like 1 or 2 rolls, it would have been worth it in terms of like even thinking long term about his economy. That being said, obviously if you roll, then you are committing gold past the level the 30 gold breakpoint, so you are losing econ. So maybe he decided that that's not worth it. That being said, in this spot, if you found that if you rolled and it would make the difference in your next couple of fights, in your matchups, obviously this is something you would have to like scout your matchups to know, then it would be worth rolling in this spot. That being said, he chooses not to and loses his streak. This is also fine. He's still making 30 gold. His spot's still excellent. He still has punk rolls. So that turn he didn't have a punk roll, but you know, now that he has a punk roll, he rolls once, hits 2 upgrades. He's not going to roll anymore after that, right? It is unfortunate that he lost the previous round because obviously he could have continued to streak, but you know, that's just how matchmaking works sometimes in TFT. Okay, moving forward, doesn't really matter. Takes glove here. So this is really, you know, really strong. Gives him a Poppy 2 that he can itemize with his Radiant TG, as well as, sorry, Poppy 1 that he can itemize with his Radiant TG, as well as give him a second Thieves Gloves. So now he has 3 Thieves Gloves with the Sleight of Hand augment while playing Executioners. Most likely, he's pretty much good to go. At this point, given how many pieces he has and his items, I think it's really safe to assume that he's going to commit to the Executioner line. That being said, it is still possible that he pivots out, given like something really egregious high roll for a different line. This Nico does allow you to play around 4 costs a little bit stronger, so, or a little bit better rather. So if you hit like an Ezreal or 2, maybe he would Nico that and play around an Ezreal. Same idea with Caitlyn, but otherwise I think he is just going to be committing to Executioner from this spot. So mind you, at this point he knows that there's someone else in the lobby. It will be Malala, if you guys are familiar with him, playing Executioners. He took Twin Terror and he's playing around Vex Chosen currently. I don't know if in this spot he already has it, but there is someone else in the game that will be contesting some of his units. So a lot of the decisions he makes from now on will be with that in mind, right? So like if he's making decisions from this point forward, it's just that like it might look weird in terms of like you're playing this comp and you're uncontested contested. It's just like note that he is contested, so like the decisions he makes are based on him being contested by someone else, right? Moving forward, so as we note that if he had actually hit one upgrade on 3-2, obviously we didn't know that, he would have actually ended up 10 streaking, which is really good for his economy. Obviously, without, you know, it's possible that he could have won that round anyway without rolling, just by getting better matchmaking RNG. Obviously, if he fought that person on 3-3 or 3-4, chances are he would have won. But had he had won that round, he would be made more money. Just it's not all that relevant to how this game kind of like ends up being or ends up turning out, but it's just in your own games, just like think about how that might actually be very impactful, right? So here he actually considers selling his Katarina, because obviously at this point he's committed to executioners most likely. He debates putting it on bench and selling it, but he chooses not to, because once again, it's still quite strong. He can still play around it. That being said, he will most likely sell it and either roll for a new chosen soon, or sell it and just like, you know, let his natural rolls find him a new chosen. He is playing Punk, so even though it's not like a true natural roll, you are getting those 1 gold rolls every turn. So, you know, being able to find a new chosen is a lot cheaper than it would otherwise would be, assuming you wait turn over turn. So he loses this fight, or maybe he wins this fight, and he's level 7 now. And now, after this turn, he'll decide pretty much whether or not he wants to reroll. So another really, really strong augment in this comp is Jeweled Lotus. It's a little bit weaker when you're playing around like just standard version of this comp, but since you're playing like around executioners, it's just like it scales with the crit a little bit. It's not the strongest augment in the game. However, because he has 3 TGs that all give a lot of crit chance, it scales with the crit chance a little bit further there, and it just gives a lot of damage overall. Pretty much in this spot, he really wants a combat augment. He could take Prismatic Ticket to kind of like give him higher chance of hitting, but given his spot, given his econ, given his HP, and given his board strength, it's not the best to take like an economy augment, just like increase the odds that he hits, just because most of the time he will hit anyway. So he wants to make sure that when he hits, he's the strongest he can be. And obviously something like a Jeweled Lotus will be really, really good for ensuring that. Mind you, in this format, the format he's playing in, which is checkmate format, he does need to win this game to win the tournament. So, and he already knows that going in. So he's going to make decisions that kind of like ensure that he has the highest board cap possible, rather than like being the most risk averse. Something like a Prismatic Ticket might be pretty risk averse, because you can probably like roll down and hit your 3 stars now, but your board cap's significantly lower than if you were to have a combat augment in the spot, right? Rolls a couple times, hits Alawi and Poppy too, pretty much doesn't have to roll after that. I think pretty much from this spot, he's just going to wait out. His board's already strong, so yes, you can commit more gold to try to find the chosen that you want, but because the chosen that you want are pretty specific, it's probably better for him to econ a little bit and then try to find a chosen that he wants a little bit later. He's still going to be able to be very competitive in these fights, obviously with Poppy 2, with Alawi 1 already, even without that much backline DPS, just because of how much DPS and combat power his augments are giving him. So all 3 of his augments are giving him a lot of tempo, a lot of combat power, and yeah, he just doesn't need to commit that much gold right now. So he's not going to roll, and he wins the fight anyway, right? That being said, he's not going to win every fight, so I believe this is a fight he loses. It's still quite close, so if he had a strong chosen that fit his board, he probably would have won that fight. That being said, we don't know how much gold he would have had to roll to hit that, and once again, he is playing for the cap, playing for the win, and there is someone else in his lobby contesting his units, so that person's a little bit closer to dying. He's probably not going to die exactly like that soon, but it's possible that he dies soon, so he is ideally waiting for that person to die before he rolls. That being said, right now he hits Executioner Chosen. Obviously, this is a very, very big high roll. He hits the exact chosen he needs, you know, 1 of 2, but he does hit a chosen that's really, really strong for his build, and he has the really good items now. So he has 2 items for Samir. He's going to build a guard breaker here, and ideally he goes for either Hodge or a defensive item with this tier. He has 2 defensive items as well on his Amumu already. He can either make a 3rd defensive item or a 3rd tank item. So he chooses to move off the Amumu, most likely because he's contested on his Amumus, so he doesn't think he can hit Amumu 3. That also, he has Poppy 2 already, and because he hit Executioner Chosen guaranteed, so he's not playing around for Emo, because he didn't hit Emo Chosen Vex, then he knows that he's playing around this Poppy 2, so it's safe to sell the Amumu because it's contested and he's not going to hit 3-star. Just you're never going to be playing around for Emo, so it's pretty safe to sell the Amumu now, is what I'm trying to say. Normally you would not sell the Amumu, you'd be going for Amumu 3-star, but obviously it depends on how your lobby goes, right? Okay, now we're moving the items. He's still rolling every turn with Punk because it makes the roll so efficient. Obviously paying 1 gold to roll is just really, really strong when you're trying to play for a reroll comp, because it stretches your gold a lot further. You're still making 50 every turn. At this point, it's a pretty basic concept. I'm sure all of you guys have seen reroll comps by now. They generally try to roll above 50 to hit to 3 stars. This comp is going for 2 3-stars. Obviously, there is someone contesting his unit still, so he wants to like accumulate some of the gold before he rolls down. Hopefully that guy dies. Malala's sitting at 14 HP, so you know, high likelihood that he'll die. Takes Hodge here, pretty basic stuff. So right right here, it's something worth talking about is that he has a Nico and he has Vex 3 on bench. So he can Nico this Vex and hit Vex 3 this turn. But once again, given the format of the tournament where he needs to win this game to win the tournament, pretty much no other placement really matters besides prize money. Obviously, these players that are playing competitive generally are looking for their highest odds of actually winning the tournament. He's going to greed the Nico and try to hit like all the 3 stars possible, right? So he's really close to Twitch. He's 2 off Twitch. He's 5 off Samira and 4 off Samira and 1 off Vex. So he's trying to like, yes, he could greed the send the Nico right away, but also Vex is not his main carry, right? So Vex has a TG on it, which we talked about, it is really, really strong in this setup. However, because he just has the TG on it instead of like actual true best in slot items on this Vex, it is a little bit weaker to Nico, and you are playing for that max cap for your board. So he will lose fights maybe because he doesn't have a Vex 3, but he's evaluating that the risk is worth it. He goes for a random Twitch item here because it's the only unit on his team that matters that is not itemized. Deathblade. Any real damage item would have worked. So here he could have taken pretty much just Deathblade realistically, but you know, he would have settled for stuff like Sterax. He would have settled stuff for like Titans, maybe another Last Whisper, even though it's not that efficient. Pretty much any damage item on his Twitch would do, just because his tank items are fulfilled just by like having 2 TGs in the front line. Obviously, he could use a different frontline item or a third frontline item for his Mumu, but he's evaluating that because he's close to Twitch 3, it's better to start itemizing Twitch, because by the end of the stage, he'll have 2 item Twitch, and by the end of the midway through the next stage, you'll have a 3 item Twitch. And if it's a Twitch 3, obviously that's going to be really, really strong, right? He's thinking a bit here. Obviously, he's 1 off Vex, so he's eager to hit the spike. Doesn't seem to hit. That's fine. He chooses to move the items off the Amumu to play a Kali. I believe this is mostly for econ purposes. It's not that much weaker or stronger. I don't think Amumu is getting his 3rd cast without at least 4 emo or, you know, something like that at 2-star or maybe with 3 items he would, but it's not quite as stable. He chooses to move it off into a Kali. He's looking for that 6 Executioner to cap out anyway, so at some point he will have to sell. Now he's the Twitch 3, he probably will sit for a turn above 40 gold. He can commit some gold here. Obviously he's 1 off. He's realistically 2 off because he needs 3 units, so he needs 2 Samiras and 1 Vex. Obviously has a Nico, so he just really needs to hit 2 units. Chooses not to roll here. I think that's fine. Rolling 1 turn before neutrals obviously is a little bit damaging for your economy, but he will most likely lose this round as a result of that. So, but he's accepting that like this HP loss is worth it. And we'll see something interesting on this next turn. Obviously just pops this. So something crucial here on this turn for the people watching is just, it's really important that you leave some bench space before picking up some of these orbs, not just the item orb, but definitely the little gray orb and the blue orbs, just because sometimes the blue orbs will drop 2 3-cost units, which obviously can upgrade your 3 stars, and the gray orb can drop 1 3-cost unit. And if you don't have, if your bench is full, then these will just drop as gold and it won't give you a unit. Obviously, it won't always give you your 3-star, but like just the chance that it gives a Vex or a Samira in this case is so valuable that you want to make sure that you have open bench slots if possible. That being said, like if I had 8 Twitches, I wouldn't be able to sell something to open my bench slots, but it is worth doing anytime you can. So this turn, okay, there's two options on this turn. So he's leveling for 6 Executioner, which guarantees that he spikes, and he's evaluating that if he's 1 off hitting both 3 stars, he will hit this turn with 40 gold. Chances are he will, right? But 1, it's possible that he doesn't, and 2, it's possible that pretty much if he levels for this turn, it's a safe play, because even though it looks a little bit, I guess, like dangerous because you might not hit your 3 stars, he's evaluating that he hits his 3 stars so often that it's better to just always play 6 Executioner on this turn anyway, just because assuming even if he doesn't hit, 6 Executioner should be a big enough of a spike to make him competitive on this turn. And obviously, you know, he will roll down here, and unfortunately, I believe he actually misses this turn. And he can't Nico. I know a lot of people watching might be like, oh, why don't you just Nico one of these carries? Maybe your Samira because it has 3 items. Well, the thing is, once again, he's playing for max cap, so he's not going to Nico unless he absolutely has to, because he's trying to win the tournament. Okay, so something interesting is that like a lot of people will call this last roll a 4 fun roll, where he rolls to 1 gold. Because if you roll to 1 gold, you obviously can't buy the unit, even if it shows up in your shop. But if he sees a Samira or a Vex in his shop, then he's just going to Nico the one that he didn't see, and then that won't be a 3-star, and then he has that for 1 turn, and it'll be worth it, right? That being said, in general, you don't want to be rolling to 1 gold in most cases, just because obviously even if you saw a Vex or a Samira in your shop, you would not be able to buy it. So keep that in mind. In this case, it's not a 4 fun roll. It's definitely the correct play, and that's why he did it. And nearly wins. Obviously, if he had either of his 3 stars, he would have won. It was a ghost fight, so he did get a little bit lucky. Now he gets both. So he's gonna roll once. If he hits Karthus, so say he hits like a double Karthus shop or like a Vex shop, then he might choose to do something else with his Nico, or maybe he hits an Alawi, he might choose to Nico that, Alawi Vex, something like that. So it's just like he's willing to get a little bit more information, but realistically he is going to Nico this Vex most of the time. The thing is, these Vex items are so good, you could actually argue Nicoing it will make you weaker in some of the cases. That being said, you have a remover, so if the items are so bad that you don't want them, you can just remove the TG and put it back on to reroll a new set of items. These ones are pretty bad. So right now he's deciding, he debated removing this Radiant TG onto his 6 Executioner Akali. Once again, because of his sleight of hand, it gives a lot of stats. Also, Radiant TG in general is just this extremely strong executioner item, just because of all the Radiant items that you can get. Just imagine these items on Akali. Generally, it will do better. It will be stronger. Finally, it scales really well with Jewel Lotus and executioners in general, just because TGs give a lot of crit chance, right? Final trick that he'll do here is that he actually puts in, so if you see here, right here, he buys the Yasuo because he evaluates now. Okay, now he's about to fight a Yone player. So Yone players obviously have very weak backlines and really strong front lines. You just need a unit that helps kill the Yone because obviously their KL in the back doesn't really do that much. So he's gonna buy this Yasuo and switch this to TD Akali, and I believe he's gonna remove the TG onto TD Akali because TD Akali is really helpful for dealing with true damage Yasuo. This is gonna be a tech you're gonna find really useful, especially when playing this comp, but anytime you're playing Akali. So if the matchup that you're about to face is a backline heavy matchup, either it's like Ari based or TF based or Karthus based, then you're gonna probably want to be playing that KDA Akali. Otherwise, certain comps such as like Yone and Riven, they have no backliners. You really want to be playing that true damage Akali to try to blow through their front lines a lot quicker. Obviously, KDA Akali is a lot stronger at dealing with backlines, and true damage Akali is a lot stronger with dealing with front lines. So keep that in mind. Sometimes you want to be holding those true damage units or KDA units just so that you can switch your Akali based on the matchup that you're about to face. Also, he doesn't remove the TG this turn, but he will soon, or at least he'll consider it soon. So he wins anyway, but it's definitely worth it in some cases, especially if his the Radiant TG items that he rolls on his Poppy are bad. It's not, great that Poppy has no items, but in his case, it's perfectly reasonable. Here, he's just going to take any item that works on Twitch. I believe he ends up going for Jewel Gauntlet. I'm sure he would have taken Death Cap or Sterax if that was the best option available to him, but he's just going to take any option that he can put on his Twitch so that Twitch can have a third item, right? So I believe the reason why he has not removed his Radiant TG is because, one, he knows he's fighting a Ghost this turn, so it's a little bit weaker. That being said, it looks like he loses anyway. But also, two, his Poppy items rolled really well this fight. 2 tank items on Poppy. Obviously, it's really tough to kind of remove that. Oftentimes, Akali's going to be rolling worse items than that, so that's probably better. He knows he's fighting the Yone, and then he removes blue buff Hurricane. Those items are terrible. Sunfire, Radiant Sunfire, and Blade are significantly better because yes, he already has a Sunfire, but obviously Radiant Sunfire will guarantee that the anti-heal makes it onto Yone, and the chance that he wins this fight is obviously a lot higher. Deathblade on an 80 carry unit generally is really strong as well, and I believe this fight will be really close, but it is also a counter matchup. He positions to not get wrapped, so something about these melee units is that oftentimes they can wrap into your backline depending on if you kind of like leave it in a corner that's empty. So he's putting all of his carries in the middle to make sure like they don't randomly get wrapped in the corner, and so that when Yone kind of like shifts towards the middle by hitting your frontline units in the middle, that the AoE effects from your backliners will hit the Yone and kill it. Samira is also really strong into Yone because her single target damage is really high. So if Samira ever targets the Yone, Samira will probably kill it. Otherwise, if Vex targets the Yone, then most likely it'll just get chain CC'd and your other units will be able to deal with it, right? And Samira gets on the Yone and the Yone dies and Taito wins another tournament. And this is obviously one of the greatest players in TFT history. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. I will leave links to his kind of like channel and profile in the description below. Otherwise, yeah, this was the video. If you guys are interested in this type of content, obviously feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Otherwise, comment down below based on what you guys are interested in. And otherwise, feel free to follow me on Twitch and Twitter, also at guubums. And until next time, peace.